one and only Master Chief, ladies and gentlemen.
As you can see, Kratos, the God of War, is in the game, and the Black Panther skin just dropped.
Today we're checking out the brand new Green Arrow skin in Fortnite.
All right, welcome to my Snake Eyes skin review.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Cypher. Ant-Man is here. He is the final hero that Jonesy's recruiting for Fortnite Season 5. This is the final collab, the final big piece of content for Fortnite Season 5. They went all out.
Chapter 2 Season 5 was a season that before its release carried a significant amount of hype with it and had largely the potential to be one of the best seasons of all time. However, for one reason or another, the direction that this season took with many of its changes left most people dissatisfied with a forgettable and rather lacking experience of a season. Most players, including myself, were very excited to see what Chapter 2 Season 5 had to offer after the success of Season 4, as well as the one word that the Vice President of Epic Games, Mark Rain, used to describe Season 5, which was chaotic. I was very disappointed to find out that Season 5 of Chapter 2 was anything but chaotic, and was a collaboration-infested mess with changes that destroyed much of what I loved about Chapter 2 Season 4. To better understand what caused this colossal decline with the launch of this abysmal season, you first need to know that I base my season reviews off of three main categories: the map, the loot pool, and overall content / quality of life changes. Before you tell me I'm wrong in the comments below, make sure to watch the full video or don't bother, because this season is a mess, and while for many years now it's gone under the radar, its slop genuinely needs to be addressed. While I usually talk about the map or loot pool sections first, as they play a more significant role into forming a season, I felt that giving you an understanding of the content this season, or rather lack thereof, will paint a better picture of many of the problems with this season. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that Season 5 had some great potential to be a phenomenal season, and this sentiment is derived from the fact that the prior season introduced some incredible content and some interesting ideas. These changes were immediately removed with the launch of Season 5 and were replaced with content that was significantly worse. The content that was present during this season was collaboration-based content, and while on a surface level this sounds pretty good, especially when given the context of its execution in prior seasons, here it only serves the purpose of monetary gain on Epic's end. Now, my overall stance on collaboration content is that if they feel the need to have it be a part of a season, it best works as a POI change similar to the Daily Bugle in Chapter 3, where it lasts past the season of its edition. The issue with collaboration items is in more recent seasons, in an effort to put more attention on the collab items, they will often make them broken to the point where the game is simply unplayable. However, this season takes a brain-dead route of completely substituting any content at all for just collaboration skins.
Is that Boba Fett?
This means that throughout the season, instead of changing the map every other week and adding new items to better fit the theme of chaoticness that this season was so inaccurately described as, Epic instead opted for adding new collaboration skins to the item shop from week to week. The most disgusting part about all of this is many content creators would parade around these new skins as if they were genuine content like new weapons, instead of recognizing it as the soulless cash grab that it was.
Okay, Fortnite keeps just going above and beyond with the collaborations. I'm a big fan of this one. Definitely gonna cop this using creator code sec.
Now, ultimately, having new potentially broken weapons each week that pertain to the collab they were added for would have been cancer, especially given Epic's more recent track record with these types of items. But even if they decided that adding collab content for the map or loot pool wasn't the move for some of the negatives that come with them, they could have at the very least added new original Fortnite content with their patches rather than what they opted for, which was nothing. Honestly, given how well received Chapter 2 Season 4 was at the time, it would have made the most sense on Epic's end to continue that type of model with Season 5 for collaboration content. But due to what I can only assume is laziness, Epic went in a far worse direction. I say all this to give you a deeper understanding when I further pick apart the map and loot pool sections of this season, as this over-reliance on item shop skins severely impacted a season that had great potential. The loot pool this season carries over similar aspects from what made Chapter 2 Season 4 work, however, it butchers them in execution. The main issue I found with this season's loot pool is the distinct lack of the pump shotgun. Now I want to preface this by saying that I don't believe that the pump has to be in a season in order for it to be good. However, a good number of seasons that don't feature the pump often greatly suffer because most new shotguns are not balanced. The fact is, the pump shotgun had 4 years of development across Chapter 1 and 2 to become what is considered the perfect shotgun. So when Epic decides to add a new shotgun to the game that acts as a replacement for the pump, it often leaves people dissatisfied with the shotgun loot pool. Now the thing with these replacements is that they often function as derivatives of the pump, meaning that they will have mostly similar statistics with a few differences like damage, magazine size, or slightly farther range that is just different enough to function as an adjusted version of the pump without changing the pump itself. The problem is Chapter 1 and 2 wouldn't do this, and when the pump was removed, it would often be replaced with a shotgun that functions entirely differently, like the combat in Season 9, the charged shotgun in Chapter 2 Season 3, and now in Chapter 2 Season 5, the infamous lever action shotgun.
Wait. And here we go.
The lever is a terrible weapon that for whatever reason is mostly well received by the community despite how little this weapon makes sense as a concept. Admittedly, there are certain weapons on paper that don't look great but still function well, and the lever is not one of them. For those who are unaware, the lever acts as a hybrid between the pump and the tack, but instead of taking the positive attributes from these weapons, it uses the negative ones. The lever's statistics consist of an overall larger crosshair that is the same size as the tack, with a slower fire rate like the pump. Now it is a bit disingenuous to say that the lever shoots as slow as the pump because it doesn't. However, its fire rate sits at this awkward middle ground where yes, it is faster than the pump, but it's still too slow to be used in rapid succession like the tack. I understand there were certain strategies that were born from this fire rate, however they were very situational and didn't make up for the larger crosshair size that the lever features.
And that's why the lever is just so good, because it's so quick.
Fuck you.
I mentioned at the beginning of this section that the loot pool carries over similar aspects from Chapter 2 Season 4 that worked, however they are far worse by comparison. Chapter 2 Season 4 had the pump and charged shotgun, which created a preference in the shotgun loot pool that isn't present in most seasons. Some people would sacrifice the consistency of the pump for a higher damage that came with the charge, while others would rather have a bit lower damage if it meant they were more likely to hit their shots. Regardless of which you went with, both of these weapons were very strong, however people like to use this same argument to defend Chapter 2 Season 5. The issue is while yes, there certainly is a preference that is lacking from other seasons, neither of these shotguns are good. This is the only season that would actively gaslight you into believing that whenever you were holding one of these two shotguns, you were at a disadvantage because the other one was better. The reality is, they are both equally garbage and make trying to enjoy the game a genuine chore. But for those who are still of the belief that this preferential shotgun loot pool works, there's still one glaring issue. The charged shotgun is still in the game.
I have to go make a call.
The charged is hands down a better weapon than either the tack or lever, which immediately eliminates the potential for a preference-based shotgun loot pool. But the charge doesn't really help much this season, as it's a codependent weapon that simply doesn't work without the pump, and Chapter 2 Season 3 is a great example of that. Even if you're someone who is fine with just the charged shotgun, there were still 3 other shotguns in this loot pool, and it had a significantly lower spawn rate than the tack and the lever, which made it very difficult to run a likable shotgun this season. For those who don't remember, because yes, this season is very forgettable, there was a 4th shotgun in the loot pool, which was the Dragon's Breath shotgun. This weapon wasn't very good as it had a very slow reload time, an incredibly large crosshair, and only 1 round in its mag. It really only served the purpose of being a gimmick weapon that would burn down an entire building after 1 shot. Apart from the shotgun loot pool, there really isn't much to complain about when it comes to the rest of the weapons. Sure, you'll have the occasional forgettable weapons such as the lever action rifle, which acted as a nerfed hunting rifle, or the hop rock dualies that were rather gimmicky. The thing about early Fortnite seasons during Chapter 1 and 2 is that the loot pools never differed that heavily from one another, and at most you would have a different set of ARs or SMGs. Chapter 2 Season 5 altered a core part of every loot pool in a way that made the game feel rather clunky no matter what shotgun you were running. In addition to this garbage, this season didn't really add very many new weapons, which seems like a huge miss when you consider the amount of collaborations this season had from week to week. The season began with the Mandalorian sniper rifle, which was mainly used to negate fall damage, as well as the Mandalorian's jetpack, which acted as a regular jetpack but with a Star Wars reskin. The only other collab item that was added this season was the Predator's cloaking device, and it wasn't worth sacrificing an item slot for something that made you mostly transparent. Honestly, the lack of collaboration items this season is especially strange when you compare it to Season 4, which was praised by many for its collab items. Even if Season 5 decided it wasn't going to move in the direction of having a larger amount of this style of content, we could have at least seen new interesting weapons that didn't pertain to these collabs. It's no secret that Chapter 2 struggles quite a bit in the map department when it comes to change. Most, if not all, seasons during Chapter 2 create map changes that revert, replace, nerf, or completely remove locations added in the prior season. And Chapter 2 Season 5 is no different from this trend. Season 4 had by far some of the best map changes of the chapter with the addition of the Stark Industries landmass, but despite its success, it was removed with the launch of Season 5. However, in addition to the usual tropes that plague Chapter 2's later maps, this season showcases, as I mentioned, quite a bit of missed potential, and I feel that a large amount of this missed potential presents itself with the map changes. For those who are unaware, Chapter 2 Season 5 is one of only 3 seasons to have the 0 point exposed on the island. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not one who really takes interest in Fortnite's storyline, as it's rather convoluted and doesn't usually have any impact on the gameplay.
It's The Rock! Woo!
However, the 0 point creates a plethora of different creative avenues that could be explored because of the effects that we see it creates on the map in other seasons. Even though I mentioned how messy the Fortnite story is, by far its most positive attribute is how Epic is able to take different objects or locations and tie them into events that create real change on the Battle Royale island. They did this as early as Season 3 with the comet in the sky hinting towards future map changes, or a cube rolling around on the map creating live changes as people were playing the game. So naturally, when I learned that the 0 point, this ball of energy that controls all of reality, was going to be exposed on the map during Chapter 2 Season 5, I was expecting them to follow a similar path to the past. But apart from the new POIs that were added with the launch of the season, as well as a reskin to the ground to sand of the surrounding areas,
oh, come on! You gotta admit this is cool!
The 0 point really served no purpose. Instead of creating more map change throughout the season for what was being called a chaotic season, they used the 0 point to explain how their different collabs worked into the story, which is just... As it stands, apart from one of the new POIs, the rest were rather mediocre, and locations like the Coliseum definitely didn't warrant the removal of a location like Stark Industries. The Coliseum suffers quite a bit, mainly in layout, as the outer walls are the only areas that feature loot, while the center is rather lacking. A POI like the Authority, while not necessarily as great as the Agency in terms of loot, uses a similar idea like this, but in my opinion it's done significantly better. The Authority features outer walls that have less loot than the center building, which creates the trade-off value of giving you better positioning by being able to third-party an unsuspecting player who landed the center, with the caveat being that you will likely have worse loot. This trade-off value doesn't exist with the Coliseum because of how lackluster the center is. In addition to this POI was very awkward to build in, as most structures didn't work within the building grid. I'm sure that many of you might say that the Stark Industries POI, and furthermore the landmass, had limited days because it was created for a collaboration, but I strongly disagree. Look no further than Chapter 3 Season 1, which added the Daily Bugle POI, a location that rounded off a collaboration that many enjoyed in a good way. This POI stayed far past Season 1, and was only removed late into Season 3, over halfway through the chapter.
Ah! Good God! It's hideous.
But even if for whatever reason Epic couldn't keep this POI around for some contractual reason, another great option would have just been to reskin and rebrand it with their own IP. Going back to the Authority, it rebranded the Agency from the prior season to better fit the theme they were going for with Season 3. This same fix easily could have been applied to Stark Industries by renaming it to something like IO Industries or any other number of names that they could have come up with, as well as a change to the existing textures of the POI to make it fit better within their theme. This would have taken significantly less effort than replacing it with a garbage location like the Coliseum, and would have retained a POI that was beloved by many. Apart from the Coliseum, Season 5 also saw the addition of Hunter's Haven, Stealthy Stronghold, and Salty Towers. Hunter's Haven wasn't really a phenomenal POI, but did take up an area of the map that prior to the season didn't have any loot to begin with. Similarly, Stealthy Stronghold was another forgettable location that was rather mediocre on loot, with the one benefit being that it didn't remove any pre-existing named locations. Salty Towers was another strong location, as it acted as a buff to Salty, and an interesting take on a new layout of Tilted Towers. It's honestly unfortunate that a POI like Salty Towers had to be limited to such an awful season, because it was really the only change that I found myself enjoying. Now, there was one interesting mechanic with the map that stood out this season, which was sand tunneling. As the name implies, you essentially just rotate by crawling through sand underground. The mechanic was rather buggy, and while I found it interesting, it was constantly being removed due to exploitation and hasn't been added back since. More than anything, Chapter 2 Season 5 demonstrates Epic's rather lazy approaches that they will take towards the game when creating new seasons. This season for me was the first that really made me lose interest in playing the game. I think it was really the first season that got people to lower their standards. Afterwards, Epic dropped many stinkers, and even seasons like Chapter 2 Season 7 that aren't necessarily that impressive look quite phenomenal when you compare it to the disgusting nature of Chapter 2 Season 5. Collaboration-based content can be a very positive thing for the game, and up until this season, there weren't any past examples that would make me physically recoil at the idea of it being in the game, similar to my experience with it now. Overall, the amount of missed opportunities, lack of good weapons and map changes, as well as the over-reliance of substituting collab skins for genuine content, secured this season as being one of the worst ever, and for that reason, I will be giving Chapter 2 Season 5 a 2.5 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of this season, or if there's any other season you would like me to talk about. Anyways, thank you for watching, and have a great day.